The pressure is on, my friends. It is time to go racing. It's the 2018 Forza Racing Championship live from Seattle, Washington. I'm Kate Osborne, and today is the last chance that our drivers will have a chance to earn those precious points as they battle their way to the Series 1 playoffs. Plus, they really want to chomp at that bit of the $250,000 prize pool. But first, they have to make it to the playoffs. It's a Wednesday Showdown for Series 1. Action starts right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome along to the final Wednesday Showdown. I'm John Hindorf. This is Ali Tak. Talk to him in a moment. You know him. You've seen him. And you haven't seen as a brand new member of our team. This is Alex Rodriguez. We're bringing in the big guns, getting ready for the Showdown in a few weeks here at Seattle. Welcome along and welcome to the team.
My goodness, an absolute honor to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so excited to be a part of this. Forza, the racing is absolutely amazing. We're getting closer and closer to playoffs. Our drivers are here. They're here to race, and they're here to compete. And again, this is the last week before those playoffs, so a very important day. I could not be any more excited to be here. And again, some people might know me as Axel Toss from other things in the esports space, but excited to jump into these races and see what these drivers have in store. This is the EMEA region we have coming forward, and these are some of the best racers in the game.
And we've got a lot of questions to answer here today, Ali, because this is it. There's no more points to be gained. It's go fast or go home.
Yeah. The saloon doors are swinging. This is the last chance saloon that we're all sitting in right now. The drivers have one last opportunity to score themselves some points that goes towards the global leaderboard and it effectively chooses whether or not they make it into the playoff or not.
And we'll talk all about the seeding and how that works and who we're likely to see as we go forward towards that $250,000 prize pot later on in this show. But first, let's get up to date with the latest action from the EMEA region. Melish has the news on our highlights from the weekend.
Here we are. The final Sunday Showdown was celebrated in big style. The drivers locked horns on over in New York on the track we all know as the Glen. It was Lage, Asics, and Seven. The three Frenchmen dominated the top three positions on the starting line, but it was Roadrunner who was first to establish an attack on the French Armada by holding Asics to the outside going into turn one, forcing him to let off. Asics had other ideas, shooting through a narrow door of space on the inside of Toe, saw him regain that second position with Veloce racers trying to sneak past too. The intensity of the racing hit an all-time high with a lap and a half to go, with a demonstration of the infamous Flying V formation, and it was Roadrunner who managed to stamp his personal victory over Asics, finishing second. Meanwhile, it was an A++ on his Watkins exam for the Frenchman Lage as he secured his first win of the day. Race number 2 saw the drivers at Catalunya Grand Prix in the Chevrolet Corvette 2016 with Lage on pole position, but it was no plain sailing this time with Roadrunner piling on the pressure. But with piling on the pressure came at a great cost of inconsistency, seeing Roadrunner reel back into the crosshairs of BAM 7. It was a little too late for Roadrunner, who again found form in the last couple of laps, finishing second behind Lage. Race 3, IndyCars around Road America called on for some of the best action, with Asics getting loose around the kink, serving racers a wall sandwich before losing control, spinning out at high speed. In amidst all the carnage, it was all about damage limitation for Roadrunner until the pack ran thin, making smooth overtakes, passing Kaiserwolf and Veloce's new addition Virus to get his second place of the night. Lage meanwhile sailed to victory for the third and final time before the Series 1 playoff. JSR Mitch led the way in Lobby B, with TPR Box hunting him down through the toe, and it soon became a battle between two of the biggest Forza teams to date. TPR versus JSR. Fire meets fire, with Box making some controversial moves on Commando, forcing him off the track. But it was Commando that kept calm and collected resuming his dominance by holding the inside line, making his way through to support his teammate Mitch. Revenge is a dish best served cold as Commander returned the favor, squeezing Box into the pit lane wall. Not being able to stop him though, making his way through to secure second place in race number 1. Mitch again under attack in race 2, this time from Box's TPR teammate Chemical on the attack in the Chevys. Bumper-to-bumper action between the two drivers allowed the rivaling duo Box and Commander to join in on the action in this 2v2 team deathmatch. Mitch keeping composure saw him extend his victory tally to 2 out of 2 with Chemical and Box taking second and third. The final race of the first wave of the EMEA Sunday Showdowns began with JSR Mitch slipping away into the distance. The IndyCars saw the arrival of the Jap Speed Racing team becoming the hard chargers of the group, with Commando with a well-executed dive bomb and Chemical through Canada corner. And it was not long before Rossi would attempt the same, seeing a lockup allowing F4H Dino to sail on through. Even though Mitch was set to match Lage's tally, it was Commando who had the last laugh with a super aggressive dive bomb on Box on the final lap. Remember, an elephant never forgets.
Great stuff. Great stuff at the weekend from all of the racers in the Sunday Showdown. I think possibly one of the most controversial and certainly the most competitive Sunday Showdowns we've seen, Ali.
It is. We'll look at in a second at a leaderboard, and sometimes a leaderboard just doesn't do justice to the exciting racing that happened on track, right? The stories being played out there. Most importantly for me is racers. It's awesome to see him joining the party here, even at this late stage in the season.
What does all this mean for us lay people who, I haven't been for every single one of these events. Who is looking strong here? Obviously, if you're at the top of the charts, all is good.
Yeah, nothing wrong with 3 wins, right? 3 wins for Lage, 3 wins for Mitch. Both of those drivers very, very fast and coming into this this Wednesday Showdown with great chances. Of course, we've mentioned the global leaderboard today, and that's something that all these drivers are fighting for as well, especially there Mitch and Box are squabbling very close to each other right now.
Yeah. And Alex, your first time here, but already from the action that we saw there with Melish's great roundup, and well done to the backroom guys for putting that together for us today. Are you already seeing some of the big names that were you expecting to see the kind of racing that we've already witnessed on the Sunday Showdown?
You never know what to expect, and I absolutely love it because we're also getting closer and closer to the Series 1 playoffs. This is the last week of racing before we get to that point. So when you think about the mentality of these players or these drivers, I should say, coming into this final week, sure, there might already be some standings that are more or less in place, but you better bet these guys are super in tune with each other, trying to figure out, okay, how are we racing, or when are those passes being made? They're trying to get a good, judge of each other as we get closer to the playoffs, because you can throw all the standings out the window. Once you get on that track and once you're starting to race, anything can happen.
Racing is just around the corner at the moment. As ever, you can get involved. You can influence where we're racing and what we're racing. Go to watch.forzarc.com. And your first choice will be what's going on in race 2. And for more details on that, here's Kate.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this race 2. This is time that you get to make a big decision on what actually happens in this race. The voting for pole number 2 is open. And check these cars out that will be drive around Catalunya GP. Remember that it's a smooth track with a lot of turns. Do you want that Chevy Corvette Z06 or perhaps the 2010 Chevy Oreca, that prototype? Again, the track is really going to be very technical, and I think this car is going to make a huge impact on the results. Well, let's go ahead and take it back here to the States, to Watkins Glen. The Glen, one of the most prestigious tracks here in the United States. The big poll that's out there today was the Watkins Glen full versus the Watkins Glen alternate, and we went with the full. What does that mean? Well, that means that there's an inner loop that's been added. Now, this was originally added for safety and for passing, especially on the brakes with no assists. This will definitely add a different element to this track. But talking about the track, it's fast, it's technical, and it rewards that smooth driving. More importantly, it's a driver's track. And I think knowing that we're going to be driving on this thing with a Honda Civic Type R, which is a 310 horsepower, 0 to 62 miles an hour in 5.7 seconds with a top speed of 167 miles per hour. This is going to be really interesting. It's a nimble street car, but it isn't a race car. So you definitely have to be very smooth and see how it's going to play out. Gentlemen, this is going to be quite the race.
I love it. I love the choice. I love the choice of putting the chicane in. Alex, that's another braking area, and Kit makes a good point there. All of these elite competitors are without any ABS, without any assist. So that's another potential passing place, another potential mistake.
Yeah, and you know, we have a few races going on today, so I'm really interested to see how these drivers are adjusting their style as we progress through these races, and especially guys on this first track, Watkins Glen. You know, looking at the first half of this track, it seems a bit more gradual, but then once we get to the latter half, turns 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, there's a lot going on there.
There is. Turn 9 especially, I love. It's got 2 lines through it. It's hairpin to the left, 2 real lines. You can come in wide, take a late apex, or you can take an early apex and just stick to the inside and muscle it out through there. So real overtaking opportunity there.
And I like the choice of the Civic Type R. It's a great street car. It's not a race car, though, as Kate said, so there will have to be some compromises. Easy to overdrive the car on this circuit. Let's see how they're going to line up for our first race in the Wednesday Showdown. No surprise then of the guys on pole position and on the front row, Les and Mitch. We saw their qualification at the weekend. Looking a little bit further down, Ali, who do you pick out as a fast starter and potentially a fly in the Les ointment?
I mean, a fast starter is racers. I'm actually starting to be drawn away from that, though. Looking at this, I want to look at Asics and Seven, 2 Frenchmen, super close on the leaderboard and starting side by side in this race. That's going to be very, very interesting to watch over the next 3 races.
Question for me, Alex, here is how much is the overall victory important, or how much is it getting those extra points for your positions ready to go? We're off and running for the Wednesday Showdown. Alex Rodriguez with the action.
Yeah, a lot of eyes going to be on Leige here. He's the top seed in this race coming into this moment. You know, very high on the leaderboard, and of course we're looking at this first turn. As we get started in these races, this is where the positions are going to pretty much be determined. And as we can see here, Ali, especially the gradual elements of the start of this race, we're kind of seeing these guys get up into a formation here. When are we expecting some big changes to happen? As again, you know, we're a little bit gradual in the turns right now.
Yeah, turn 1s through 5, that's all very fast. This car flowing through the apexes. You can see racers there throwing a move onto Commando up into 6th position. Through the bus stop for the first time. Don't hit the cement on the inside. That isn't going to do your car any favors. And Chemical a little wide there. But it's through this section, to get to your question. It's through this section we're going to start to see some of the slower corners and some of the moments when these cars can get side by side and really start racing.
And we're seeing Leige going straight to the front. We'll see how long he can hold on to that. You know, that's a question I'm going to go to you with, actually, as far as Leige. Now that he's in the front, we talk about the chaotic elements of the beginning of the race and how important it is to stay safe, but also getting in a nice position so you're setting yourself up nicely for the race. Now that Leige is in the front, do you see anyone catching him?
Yeah, Leige is this momentum driver. He's this driver who gets away early in the race and he'll just disappear up the road. You really need to be threatening him early on if you want to make that move. But Mitch is well placed.
Mitch is well placed in second. We have seen in the past if someone can put a little bit of a move on Leige, he's not always reacted well to that. He doesn't defend well. He likes a clear track in front of him, and his Sunday qualifying has put him at the front, and at the moment he's driving away from a quality field. What I'm looking for now, Alex, is who can chase him down, and at the moment everybody is scrabbling over, well, the scraps from Leige's table.
Yeah, look at all this contact right here on your screen there. We could see a lot of physical aggression there between these drivers. Leige there you see in the very front. He's going to take those turns incredibly tight. He's going to hold that spot for a while. We'll see if Mitch can catch up to him. Looks like just behind him we have Roadrunner, which I guess is to be expected. So we're going to keep a close eye on these movements and see when those big movements are going to be taking place. But for now, it seems like this is pretty much what we're to be expected on paper. It's kind of looking like what we're expecting. However, looking at 6, 7, 8, 9 there, all these cars are so close right now. We're seeing a bunch of contact, and we're just waiting for a move to be made as even more contact. Looks like that's Virus there trying to make a big move here past Asics.
Yeah, Virus, Seven, and Asics, all 3 of them together getting very squirrely there through the long right-hander of turn 4. That is a massive set off for Asics right there, off on the straight. So definitely getting a little bit of help there as he lost the rear of that Honda Civic.
Yeah, side by side, Virus and 7 going to battle here through these gradual turns as we head on through the track. This is lap number 2 of 7, so quite a bit of real estate here to work with. But just like that, Virus able to sneak ahead of 7 and almost throwing him off guard. But again, a lot of action there in the middle of the pack. We're seeing a lot of again, just straight up contact, a lot of physical elements to this race that we're keeping a very close eye on, especially in the 6, 7, 8 spot. And again, we're talking about implications and what these racers are fighting for. That's where a lot of the questions are in the air as far as placement in those global standings.
TPR Box in the battle for 5th position is out of the race with a completely damaged car. He started in 4th in this. I expected him to see him in that battle, but he's off at the side of the circuit. He will take no further part in this first race of the day.
And you're saying the battle for 5th position there as 7 gets right up the inside of Virus. Rude stuff here through the back of the track. Box there not just fighting for 5th on track, but also fighting for 5th in the global standings. So that is a massive impact there for Box as 7 and Virus really getting into each other.
Just trading places all throughout this. As we could see, they were side by side for a good 10, 15 seconds there. I don't know, maybe chatting through the window, trading some stories about the race, talking about the weather. But at this point, it looks like 7 getting himself a decent advantage, but you got to think Virus. He might be a little angry right now because of all those physical altercations happening there. So you got to think he's looking for a moment to pass 7 on up, and we'll have to see if he can make that happen anytime soon.
The best thing for Liège at the moment is Mitch has got his rear view mirror full of the rest of the field from 3rd on down and can't just get his head down and chase after the leader. It looked to me as if Lloyd made a little bit of a breakaway, but he hasn't been able to make a dent in Liège's lead. He still leads.
All right, it looks like we're heading on to turn number 4. And again, this is lap number 3 of the 7-lap affair. Going through that back straight, as we can see, Liège still in the front. We're seeing his view here, and he's almost extending his lead. How good is this guy? Extending his lead, staying calm, staying comfortable. Remember, everything is on the line at this point. This is the last race before the playoffs. So this could be a huge statement opportunity here for Liège.
This is Liège's bread and butter right here. Day in, day out. This is the kind of race that he can win. Go away from the front, lead from all that clean air, and just put his lines down. There's no one who can touch him, although Mitch is trying.
And Mitch has just got himself 2 or 3 cars lengths from the rest of the field. Roadrunner sitting in there in 3rd position, and it looks now as though he has got the ability, but we've seen this before with Mitch. Sometimes he just takes a little bit too long to get into his stride when he's not right at the front of the field. But for my money, Alex, he is closing down on the leader now that he's got a bit of clear air.
Oh, man, I would love to see that. I would love to see someone overtake Liège. Liège, I love you, but hey, you know what? I want to see some competition here. But and speaking of which, though, looking especially at right here, cars number 3 and 4, we got Roadrunner and Racers. And you mentioned Racers before this even started. This seems to be one of the close battles here in the front of the race, and it seems like there's a pretty clear separation here between these first 4 cars and a little bit further back. So I'm really going to be watching closely this battle for 3rd place. It looks like Roadrunner and Racers staying relatively in contact here. We'll see if Racers can make a move.
There's a pecking order, Axel. I mean, these drivers have had the whole season to be able to work out who ought to be where. You know, I deserve to be in 3rd, I should be in 2nd. Racers coming along just in this last round.
Yeah.
And he has to find his place on that pecking order.
And you kind of called that. Racers, he's near the bottom of our standings right now, but here he is in 4th place. And that's what it's about here. It doesn't matter where you are in the standings at any point. We're looking out for these drivers to really make that jump towards the front. So I think Racers doing a great job here considering his standings.
And don't forget, AMS Roadrunner is in the battle for global 11th position, along with JSR Commando, along with TPR Chemical. They're all in this race, and at the moment, he's best positioned of those 3 in that battle for 11th in the overall global standings. And we'll keep you up to date with that as we go through today, because that is going to be all important at the end of this Wednesday Showdown.
You know, I love that you mentioned that, John, because it brings that whole other dimension to this race.
Well, there's more races than just the race out front.
Exactly.
There's a race within a race within a race.
Exactly. And I can tell you, just to add another layer to that delicious cake.
Yes.
Racers and Roadrunner, these two know each other from community racing. They've had a few tangles in the past, And actually, there's
Oh
a little
my
bit of
gosh.
tension there between them as they get side by side.
Yeah, speaking of tangles, that's exactly what's happening there. Roadrunner looks like he's able to keep that spot in third place. We'll have to see if he can hold on to that. But Racers, he's not letting his global standings affect anything in this race, and I absolutely love it. He's looking for that move to make that pass. It looks like we're coming on to turn number 7 here, the toe of this Watkins Glen full track here. And you know, we talked about this again before the show. You know, when are these moves going to happen in such a technical area of this track is turn 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
And Racers is safely into the semi-finals. So, you know, he's at 29th position potential, but he's in the semi-finals. So in some respects, he's got nothing to lose here, whereas Roadrunner right ahead of him, and he's challenging as they go up the uphill S's at the moment. Roadrunner needs those points to cement his position further up the field.
You know, just to like build on that sort of last chance saloon metaphor, he's the man from out of town just showing up in that saloon. He has nothing to lose,
Has
and
he
he's
got a
here to
black
pick up
hat?
as many points.
Black hat or a white hat, though? That's
Black
the question.
Hat, and it's pulled down over his eyes.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And he's making his presence known here in the front half of this race, getting closer and closer to Roadrunner as we pass 4 laps, about to enter lap 5 here as we see there, Lage staying on in the front, coasting on through. You know, he's probably cracking that window open and enjoying the weather right now because he's out there all in front, and I feel like in his mind it's going to stay that way. So, again, keeping an eye on Mitch here in second. Will he try to catch up? But I think, again, the real race right now is in between 3rd and 4th there. Racers, again, making his presence known on this track. He is locked onto Roadrunner right now and looking for those opportunities to pass. But, I don't necessarily see that happening in the first 5 turns here of this 5th lap. Again, I think we got to look towards that as we get to the latter part of the track to see that move from Racers.
Watch out into this braking area, because for my money, I think that Racers, Ali, is just a little stronger on the medium to heavy braking areas. He's compromising his exit a little bit, which is why he wasn't as fast down that first long straight. But my goodness me, he's very good indeed on the brakes, and there might be half a chance either at this next left-hander or as they head in to the toe of the boot.
You know, we're strapped right onto the front of Racer's car here, like you know, the guy in Mad Max as we follow around Roadrunner. These two getting very, very close together.
As we go across the toe here, again, turn number 7 on this track, we'll have to see if any movements can be made.
With the battles going on the field, let's cross to Brian Ekberg, who's got some more on what's been going on, perhaps where we're not watching the action. Brian?
Well, it's funny, you guys are talking about exactly who I want to talk about, Racers, who were looking at that replay of what happened to Box at the end of the race. Why did he drop out? It was that final turn, and it looked like there might have been contact between Racers and Box, sending him into that wall there. The angle we had was a little bit far away, but what we saw was big tire plume from Box into the wall. Racers was right there, so he might be taking advantage of it. Will this end up in adjudication for Racers? Unclear at this point.
Remember, when the checkered flag falls, the results are merely provisional until the adjudication panel have sat and looked at all those interesting incidents out on the track. Brian keeping across all of the replays that perhaps we aren't seeing in the action further down the field. He's our 4th pair of eyes here. Into the last couple of laps, and this battle for 3rd position is where it's all at. Alex?
Yeah, and great insight there from Brian Ekberg there. Thanks, and a very interesting moment there. And that, again, that's what can happen in these very important moments. As we are in the last week before the playoffs. Everything is on the line here. So these drivers pulling out all the stops. So we'll have to see what happens here. But as of right now, we're still seeing a relatively similar order of business here in the front side of the pack here. As again, Lage straight in the front, then Mitch right behind him, and Racers still trying to contend against Roadrunners here, and we'll have to see if he can make a move happen.
Where does he make the move then, Ali? You know, he's followed him around. Racers has followed Roadrunner around now for 3 or 4 laps. He's been close, and this is as close as he's been, but I still think he's got the best opportunity under braking. He's on the wrong side here. He's going to have to try and go down the inside in the short shoot.
I tell you what, John, you don't want to escalate a battle against Roadrunner.
Why
Don't
not?
throw the move on right until the very end. Otherwise, he'll put a trump card on
Okay.
top of your card. So Racers is holding back right now.
Okay.
I'm going to call it turn 9 of the last lap into the
Wow.
final sector. That's where Racers is going to make his move.
Well, we're just about to get to that final lap right now. We are in lap number 6, going around that toe, turn number 7, and again, all is in order here for the front 4 in this in this race that we're watching, and now we're taking a look at positions 9, 10, and 11. Relatively close there, but again, maybe a lot of patience being shown by some of these drivers. As you said, maybe waiting for that last lap to really make those moves, as we're seeing. Actually, look at this, closer and closer. Racers getting right onto the back of Roadrunner there, really making his presence known as we head into that final turn here as we enter. Getting very close to entering lap number 7. Racers, I don't know if he's going to wait for your prediction there. I don't know if he's going to wait for turn 9, because he's getting incredibly close to Roadrunner
Racers
right now.
is playing Roadrunner like a $5 fiddle right now. He is absolutely throwing moves on the inside. It's like, oh yeah, this is what I'm trying to do. You know, this kind of really soft, unassertive move. He's just trying to tell Roadrunner that's where you should defend.
Roadrunner defensive though. He's in the middle of the road here, trying to make him go around the outside, and then it's the old switcheroo down the inside. Now it's going to be all about getting the momentum up the hill, and I still reckon there's half a chance into the bus stop.
Yeah, this is the final lap here. Now is the time to make your move. We're going past turn 2 here into turn 3 as we're waiting for one of these drivers to pounce. At this point, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion. Lage in the front, he's gone. See you later. Congrats, perhaps. But right now, it's between number 3 and number 4. Winners Racer's going to use this move. And again, he's near the bottom of our global standings. He's at the very back compared to this entire field. But again, finding himself in this 4th spot, trying to make this pass happen, getting closer and closer to Roadrunner, but Roadrunner not leaving any space for that to happen.
Racers playing peekaboo on the way into every corner. We're standing up on the desk here, just waiting for him to release the brakes and throw that lunge in. Not quite yet. It looks like he's got a chance here. It looks like he has the pace on Roadrunner.
I like the turn 9. I like your turn 9 pick earlier on, Ali. I think that he had a little look at it there. He almost had, he's just hit the wall low on the exit of 7, and that's going to cost him a little bit of momentum. Is that his final chance gone? The race to the line with Alex.
Here's that toe here. Again, this is turn number 7, a pretty gradual U-turn here and going on towards the boot, towards the heel. Then turn number 8. Approaching turn number 9. So looking at 3 and 4 here, they're about to approach turn number 8. They're going to do a hard right and then go into turn number 9, where Ali has predicted Racers will be passing Roadrunner. So we'll see if it happens here. Racers trying to find, there's some room on the edge. It looks like he's staying square behind Roadrunner. Here we're coming onto turn number 9. It's going to be a very quick turn towards the left. Here is the chance. Can he make it happen? Racers staying a little bit on the outside, though, not able to find any moves. And Roadrunners staying solid in the front. We don't have that much real estate left. Looks like Lage is about to cross that line. Again, the final lap as these racers crossing that finish line. Can Racers make a move happen? It looks like he's going to stay in that 4th position. Lage there in the front, crossing the line, followed by Mitch, and then a little bit further behind. It looks like Racers, did he do it?
It's close. They were side by side coming out of the final corner. Mitch closing down on our leader at the end. Once he didn't have to worry about what was going on, but it was very tight for that 3rd position. And we'll take a look at the provisional standings in just a moment. What do you reckon to your first race?
Was there a pass at the end there?
It was close.
Did Racers pass Roadrunner at the very end?
Well, let's...
We're gonna get another look at this one, because that got super close at the end. Ali, you were calling turn number 9. That might have come down to turn number 11, the final turn here on Watkins Glen. But I just love what we're seeing there. Lage in the front, straight to the front in the beginning. Business as usual. We understand how much chaos there can be in the front. We saw Box knocked out of the race pretty early on, and I think that's incredibly important for Lage. Stay out of danger. That's exactly what he did. Took care of business, stay in the front. And then from there, we saw Mitch kind of stay in 2nd place, kind of where we expected. But I love that race we were seeing there between Racers and, again, Roadrunner there for that 3rd, 4th position. That's where the race was really happening. It got really close there at the end.
Yeah, Lage, I mean, he's this momentum machine. You know, he starts almost slow, and he whirls it up and up and up, and he gets faster and faster. There's no catching him if you let him go away at the start. So you need to throw them. Looking forward in this competition, Mitch or whoever's in 2nd needs to throw a move on early.
Coming in, don't forget you can get in touch with us via social media. Kate will be having a look at that, and make sure you log on to watch.forzarc.com to help with our polls later on. A lot of wheel spin coming out of the corners there, and that's why I thought Roadrunner was going to struggle a little too much going towards the end of that race. We can have a look at the highlights, or we can have a look at the results actually as it stands. These are provisional. Mitch closing down at the end on Lage, who did what Lage does. It's what was written on the can. Roadrunner just holding on. He had to do a lot of defending from Racers. Then Chemical and 7 making up your top 6.
Yeah, we actually had Roadrunner in the chat make a comment about that, saying that he's never ever done so much defending, and that's great to hear, honestly, and even more awesome to see. That's what we were talking about the entire time. Roadrunner just doing what he absolutely has to do, and honestly, I think for him, especially in a racing scenario, like that's a skill that you need to hold on to, and I think for him, I think he's pretty happy. He's like, okay, he's got to feel good about that. Like he was able to hold on, able to defend, and that's a position he might find himself in once the playoffs come, you know, and then he might have to recollect that and be like, all right, it's good that I got some practice in there defending, because Racers, what a showing from him, really taking it to Roadrunners, but Roadrunners eventually holding on.
Yeah, Racers, you know, all that aggression, and Roadrunner was able to soak it up in the end. It was a close match between the two of them. I do wonder if you had infinite laps, I think Racers would have got by, but of course that's not how motorsport works.
Infinite, I think.
Yeah, let's keep on calling it. We can call all night.
Infinite plus one there, definitely. Box, be disappointed with that, and we may be waiting for results from the adjudication panel for a while. We'll get some footage in a moment, I think, of the incident, which may well affect the final standings. What we've shown you already is only the provisionals. When we come back, we should have the official results of race 1 of the Wednesday Showdown. We're live from Seattle. Don't go anywhere.
Sorry, not sorry. Time to get gnarly. 10 feet tall, bring on in the army. Remember the drive, remember the name. Came from the side, ahead of the game. Yo, why you putting on your threads, boy? I'm way ahead. Why you sleeping in the bed, man? I'm making next. No fear, I put it in high gear. You know that the champ's here. You ready to go here? Hey, push yourself, prove yourself, express yourself. Loud, defy limitations. On your outside, on your outside. Burn him up, buddy, burn him up. Somebody hit me. There, clear. Still there. You put it. Copy. Oh my goodness!
IndyCar.
Back to the front!
The future starts now.
Push it, kid, push it.
The 2018 Verizon IndyCar Series. The future starts now.
The month of May, of course, is IndyCar, and that's why we have the IndyCar in the studio, and that's why we'll be racing an IndyCar later on this Wednesday Showdown. We're waiting for the final results. Gives us the opportunity to remind everybody that if you haven't made it through to the playoffs, there's a whole other chance for you later on in the year, as in early July we'll start Series 2, which heads towards a playoff live from Mexico City. Before that, of course, in a couple of weeks' time, Alex will be looking after the playoffs with Ali and the rest of the team here in Seattle. Can't wait for that as we go towards the World Final. And that, at the end of October, will be in, well, sort of my backyard, London town. That little London village, that's where we're going to be. The first race, gentlemen, this for this Wednesday Showdown pretty much had everything. Liège at the front doing his thing. Then after that, there was action, excitement, incident, and possible, Ali, controversy. And I think that's why we're waiting still just for those final adjudicated results.
Yeah, I'm not tuned into the ForzaRC anymore. I'm tuned into Box's Twitter. That's where I'm at. That guy putting up a clip of the incident with Racers. It looks like a spicy one. All sorts of other factors could have come into it. Was racers nudged? Were there other cars around?
Yes.
I don't know. The adjudication team, of course, have far more information than I do. So let's find out.
And guys, I got to ask because, you know, we have standings implications here. You know, these we've talked about all the different races going on beyond the race that we're seeing on the screen. Specifically for Box, you know, if that happens in the early part of a race for him, you know, spun out of the race, especially he's going for 5th right now, and he's toe to toe with Mitch right now, going for that 5th spot in global standings. You know, how does Box feel about this right now? You know, we have 2 races to go here for EMEA. Boom! In the first 30 seconds or so, he's knocked out of the race there in the first race. What are you thinking if you're Box right now? You know, he's going on Twitter, kind of talking about it, but how does he really get himself back into the right mentality here?
And the key thing is, whatever the adjudication says, you can't give Box that place back. You can penalise someone else, but just like in the real world, you can never give that position back. We're talking about implications on the global leaderboard. Let's take a look at the standings as they were coming in to this final Wednesday showdown here live from Seattle. Ali, I mean, it's tight, and that battle for 5th in particular that Box was embroiled in. These mean important positions for seeding when we get to the playoffs.
Exactly. They mean the grid positions when we get to the playoffs. It's super important where people finish here. A little bit of housekeeping, though, a little bit of stuff to make you understand where we're at. Hard BR has done an amazing job this week. He's done incredibly well. It's going to be difficult for anyone to threaten him. Lightning, on the other hand, has trashed it in qualifying. Qualifying rivals have seen him slip way down the order, and so he's not going to be fighting for the lead of this anymore, not even for 2nd, I don't think. I think it's going to be Venom and Lage who are going to be fighting for 2nd, maybe with Wesley, and then Lightning, I don't know, fighting with Box and Mitch for 5th.
Well, and Mitch, of course, gets the good result there. Not the perfect result, Alex, but he gets a strong 2nd position. And I'm not sure he'll be too disappointed about that. Following Lage home, but he cemented his position on the global standings.
Yeah, he's probably going to be like, you know, Box, I'm sorry that happened, but inside he's going to be like, you know, it happens sometimes, and he's going to be maybe okay with that. And something else I want to note, especially looking at those global standings, racers. I mean, Ali, you were talking about him before we started. He's a little bit further down in our standings, but that was one of the guys you mentioned. He's like, look out for races. And there he was in top 4 contention there in that race, really contending with, as we saw, Roadrunner that entire way through. You know, not seeing him on the global leaderboard, seeing everyone else there, but then seeing him come through is just a testament to anything can happen when these races happen, especially in the moment, especially when it's live, and especially as we get towards the playoffs. So don't ever count anyone out, because you never know when someone's going to come from the back of the pack, and good call on that out.
I'm so happy for racers. I'm so happy that he performed. You know, the ink is still wet on that contract with Veloce, but Jean-Eric Verne somewhere, you know, trying to get that dry right now.
Did he show a slight lack of experience in the big game? It's his first time in the Wednesday Showdown, and did that show just a little bit with what we've been able to see from the social media side of things?
You know, people talk about the beginning of Ayrton Senna's career. He got in a lot of crashes, if I remember rightly, and
he monsters a lot of people all the way through his career, you might say.
You need to set a precedent if you're a driver. You need to be able to say to other drivers, hey, look, I'm going to throw a move on you, and if you don't let me through, if you don't give me space, we're both going into the wall. I would sooner see us both out of the race than me behind you.
Okay, whilst we're waiting for the results to be confirmed, let's go to Brian, who has some of the highlights. I don't know how you picked what we're going to see here, Brian, from what was a super opening race for the Wednesday Showdown here live from Seattle.
Well, you guys focused on the thing that we're focused and adjudication is focused on as well right now, that incident between racers and Box. They're looking at that very closely. The angle we had as we moved through the race was very far away. We sort of saw the plume of smoke. We saw Box. Something happened to Box, and we sort of surmised by the positions of the cars that racers was the one involved. But as you pointed out on social media, this is the Box pulled the clip and saw the contact that turned him around there at that turn. So, yes, this is an incident that happened between Box and racers, and I have confirmation from adjudication that there is going to be a penalty for racers in this race.
Oh, right. That does have... Well, it has implications, gentlemen, on the result of the race. How much is that going to make the standings? Because racers is a safe semi-finalist, inside the top 30 or thereabouts for the playoffs. It's not going to help poor Box, of course.
It doesn't help Box. Who it does help is Roadrunner. Third place, now up to second. Roadrunner needed some points here. He's fighting for 11th on the global leaderboard. But also, I mean, you talked about the big M earlier on, momentum. Everyone is looking for momentum heading into the playoffs, and Roadrunner needs that more than anyone.
Great stuff from Brian and the replay guys, who are the unsung heroes behind the little wall over there. So thanks to them for getting all that footage together. Kate is going to tell us where we're going next. Kate, what do you got?
Well, as we know, the Series 1 is just about over. Today is the last day. I don't know about you, gents, but it definitely makes me excited to see what will happen in the playoffs. But you can still sign up for Series 2. Make sure to go to ForzaRC.com to register and get all of the information you may need. And, of course, continue to watch our watch.ForzaRC.com to make sure you can complete your quests and earn these incredible incentives. This is something that's extremely important when you're part of our Forza RC community. Gentlemen, doesn't that make you want to play? Just to get those incentives, huh?
Yes.
Yes, I stayed up all night recently.
I challenge both of you.
Right, okay.
Let's do it.
You're on. And that Subaru Impreza, that is making you salivate, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. I haven't quite got one on my shirt today.
No, you've got the opposition.
Yeah, I've got on the other side.
You've got the opposition, the Evo. Let's take a look at the competition schedule and find out where we're going in terms of the battles to get towards this $250,000 prize fund for the Forza Racing Championship in 2018. As you know, we've been racing towards that in this first series for quite some time. There's how it stands. And the format, Ali, is rinse and repeat as far as Series 2 is concerned. We will start again in July for that. That's heading towards Mexico City, but before all that, we'll be heading to the Series 1 playoffs back here on June, in the middle of June. I can't be here because there's a small race in France that's going on instead.
Never heard of it.
Alex is going to be taking point on that, and we will crown a champion.
We will crown a champion. I mean, we're getting to crunch time. We're getting to crunch time. That's what's happening. You know, online series is coming to a close, and we're going to be giving away some money to the people who can...
Real folding type money.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Not messing around type of money, like a portion of $250,000 that we're giving away over the course of the year. So, Seattle, that's the first chance to win some. If you've missed out in Series 1, join in for Series 2 and get there for Mexico City. Yeah.
Are you looking forward to the playoffs, Alex? From what you've seen already, I mean, this is the final showdown on a Wednesday. Think what it's going to be like when it gets really hairy for those playoffs.
I cannot wait, and we're not too far away at all. It is coming very quickly, and I think these drivers understand that too. We can see that with how they're taking the track today, and that's going to be something to look out for as we continue with the EMEA region today to see what adjustments are going to be made. And I do have a question I want to bring in from that last race, especially the big battle we were seeing between third and fourth, Roadrunner and Racers, especially from the angle of Roadrunner, where you're in a position where, okay, you got a guy right behind you, and that could be, and this is someone who's not leaving. Just Racers was on him for, I think, most of the race. Yeah. And we saw him talk about how good of a race it was between Roadrunner and Racers. Roadrunner was saying that, you know what, that was a tough race. That was a lot of fun, and he had to defend like a champion to be able to do that. So to you guys, as far as that element is concerned, what's the ability for Racers there to kind of break down that defense from Roadrunner? And then on the other side, what are the best things Roadrunner can do in that situation to hold on? How was he able to keep that position and keep Racers off of him the entire way through?
Yeah, so I mean, racing becomes incredibly cerebral at that point. Roadrunner in the lead, he's got to defend. He's got one move. He's got one place he can put his car on the track, move that chess piece to block Racers. And Racers has to make him spend that move in a foolish way.
Yeah, and that's why I love street cars on these fast-flowing circuits. We're still waiting for final results. The adjudication continues. I think we know why. We've been through it. We're not going to rerun that in our minds. We have seen some footage, but we haven't seen all of it. It's just like in Formula One or in World Championship racing. The stewards, effectively, the clerk of the course, the race director, the adjudication panel, looking at every angle that they have access to before we hear the full results confirmed. So what we're going to do is take the opportunity to go back to the weekend. Later on today, we'll be looking at the USA region, and again, it's their final opportunity to score points for the playoffs, and this is what happened at the weekend in the Sunday Showdown. Mellish has the action.
Venom, Lightning, and Billy Sue, your 3 titans of Lobby A in the NA regions, and it was Venom leading the cavalry charge through the first lap. However, it was TX3 Lightning with the sportsmanlike behavior after grazing the wall onto the start-finish straight, moved over to allow his teammate Billy Sue to slip on through using the racing line. Billy Sue had found confidence in this moment and sparked an unsuccessful last gasp attack on FLH Venom, who was to fend off the young American and take the win in race number 1. Race number 2, the forecast was cloudy at the home of Spanish racery Catalunya GP, and it was a simple mistake from Venom on the first lap that saw Billy Sue head on through. Lightning could sense weakness in the F4H driver. Venom, defending like his life depended on it, was able to fend off some of the cleanest overtaking attempts from Lightning seen in the Sunday races. Towards the end of the race, it was the Chevy's one-wheel peel effect that saw Venom struggle to gain traction, and his efforts would be rewarded with a final step on the podium after Lightning took second. Race number 3 saw the inevitable cold tires, no braking dilemma take physical form, with AMR Hurricane and GTR Master Apex spearing off into the sand traps and the tire walls. Again, it was a top 3, however, having a race at their own at the top of the pack, with Billy Sue struggling to keep Lightning and Venom behind him. Billy Sue seemed to let Lightning pass, recognizing his superior pace in the Honda, but Venom, however, wasn't given the same treatment and found himself testing the walls of the defensive Billy Sue. Lightning's taking the win meant statistically all 3 powerhouses were tied on points, with each driver having a first, second and third finish going into the Wednesday Showdowns. Lobby B had Veloce Force 1 pit the likes of Harmonix, Rev and Vanquish to pole position, but the battle for the bubble lit up with Sparky DS, Julian and Shadow Fox all battling straight from the get-go for those 2 unreserved Wednesday Showdown spots. Force 1 stormed ahead to take his first win out of 3. Race number 2 once again saw Force 1 extend his lead through consistency on the track. Meanwhile, Harmonic, in a similar fashion to Venom, was unable to put the power down in the Corvette, giving Revs and Vanquish moments to seize, but was able to maintain and well defend his second position. The final race saw a carbon copy of great battles and racing respect as Vanquish used the slipstream to drive past Harmonic. That saw him finish the race in second, but after a controversial penalty handed out to Force 1, saw Vanquish bump up those 15 points to 20.
Once again, fantastic racing in the Sunday Showdown for the North American region, which will see Veloce Force 1 and TX3 Billy Sue on the front row. That action to come live from here at Seattle later on today. We'll give you a break to get a beverage or 2, settle down, perhaps do some work, and then you can come back and watch that a bit later on. I'm looking forward to that. More great racing. The results are in. Let's take a look at the confirmed result. No doubt about who won or who was second, with Lege and Mitch staying in there. Roadrunner held on to third because that's where he finished. It's all change after that, Ali. That's where the adjudication has come in.
It is. Look at that. Racers tumbling down the field all the way from second place to the rear.
Does it matter, though? Does it matter for him? Because there's two penalties. There's a 5-second penalty for Virus and a 10-second penalty for Racers. Does it matter for Racers because of his position in the championship? What I'm saying is, was it worth making the attempt at least?
It's always worth the attempt as a racer. He doesn't have an off button. He's not going to be able to switch it off. And I'm happy to see that he threw the move in there. At the same time, you're so right, John. He's not up there battling for the global leaderboard top spots. He's a little bit further down.
A bit of a different situation for Veloce Virus. He's in 14th at the moment, or at least that's as worse as he can be, the worst place he can be. But he could get up into the top 10. That might hurt him a little bit more. So he's going to have to try a bit harder in the next 2 races.
Virus is in a very close battle, race fight with Roadrunner, Commando, and Chemical, and we saw how well Roadrunner was doing there in that race. And I think a big thing to take from this too is you mentioned it earlier, kind of respect or kind of making your presence known on the track. So what does this mean for racers, right? Where something like this happens to him. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? As far as, okay, he's shown he's willing to kind of make these moves that are a little bit risky, but it worked out at first, but then it didn't work out because of the ruling that just was handed down.
I'll tell you one thing. it's fired Box up. Watch Box in the next couple
Yeah,
of races. And the next race is almost upon us. Let's head back to Kate, who has all the details of our second race here in the Wednesday Showdown.
The second race is almost upon us, but first, let's open up polling for number 3. Okay, check this out. It's IndyCar month, so we figured going around America's National Park of Speed, Road America, we should pull out some IndyCars. The big question is do you want the number 5 Schmidt-Peterson Motorsport of James Hinchcliffe, who got 20th in 2007 at Road America, but he's emotionally tied to it. He said it's been a dream of his to race there, or perhaps you want to go with Joseph Newgarden, the number 2 Penske, the defending IndyCar Series champ, who ended up 2nd in 2007. It's up to you, but hey, let's go ahead and head on over to Catalunya, the GP race in Barcelona. This is an iconic track, one that has spent more Formula One testing than any other track, really, in any moment. So let's go ahead and see who won that particular poll. The big winner was the Corvette. And that is important to note because that is America's sports car running on a very F1 style track. It is going to be driven around the Catalunya GP, which is, I think, one of the best tracks out there. You have a good mix of corners, big braking areas, downhill into turn 1, a passing opportunity in turn 10, passing in action right there around turn 14, and they'll be doing that in the Chevy Corvette. An important thing to note, that weight is all in the front with the engine up there. It is critical to get good braking and quartering with this car because the corners around Catalunya are incredible. This is a driver's skill car, and I think, gentlemen, we'll see that out there today.
Can't agree more. Thank you, Kate. Perfect description of the circuit and the track. And by the way, if I can put my 10 penneth in, vote for Hinch's car. He's not in the Indy 500 as it stands at the moment. And a couple of my friends work for Schmidt-Peterson, Piers and Lena Gade. Actually, Piers Phillips is the team manager. Lena Gade is the engineer, used to engineer Audi and has engineered Audi to a couple of victories in the Le Mans 24 hours. So I say go for Hinch. I'm delighted again that you guys have made the right pick again. You picked the right circuit for the first race, and now and now you've picked the right car.
Right.
I think the street-based Corvette around Catalonia, as we saw from the Sunday events, has provided great racing. It's all about into and out of the corners with this one.
John, I respect your opinion. I respect it immensely, but it's incorrect this time. I'm sorry. I mean, like, on the great answer sheet of life, that one was actually a wrong answer. The Oracle was the correct choice for the community.
Corvette can never be a wrong answer.
Well, both of them are Chevrolets, at least. But the Oracle is such a little wasp. Maybe we'll see it later on in North America. I love those kind of fast, downforce heavy racing cars. Instead, we're going to get a barrel of understeer, and it'll be enjoyable racing, shoulder to shoulder, I'm sure.
And what you're going to have to be watching out for here is the downhill turn 1 into the braking area there, into that little chicane. Some side-by-side action. I think now pretty much guaranteed with the fact that we're using street cars.
I am so excited for this race to start because of what we saw in race number 1. And I'm going to be I think we all should be looking very closely at box, very closely at racers, seeing what's going on there. And honestly, what I'm really looking out for is someone to challenge Lage. I was asking you about it. How does that happen? Does Mitch have to make a move in the beginning? Does Box have to make a move in the beginning? How does it happen? Does Roadrunner, go straight for that turn really quick? And then something else I'm looking out for, ladies and gents, fun fact of the day, designed to look like bull's horns from the air. Look top down on this track. It's a bull. It's bull's horns. It's amazing. But what's very interesting about this, especially compared to the track we just saw, is when are these passes going to happen? And I'm looking at this course, and I'm seeing all the turns in the beginning, and I'm also seeing all the turns at the end. It looks like the straightaways are around turn 9, right in the middle. So we might see, and I want to ask you, we might see a lot more movement maybe in the beginning and in the later stages of this track. So a lot more potential ability for some more passes.
I mean, and Box needs that. Box needs it badly. He's starting from the rear of this grid. It's going to be the end result of race 1 determines the grid for race number 2. He's going to be right at the back. Right. And we've got to keep in mind, I mean, I'm sweating buckets here doing maths on this desk. Yeah. But I think there's 14 points right now between Box and Mitch. Yeah. So very little separating them after Mitch got that great result.
So don't forget then, because of the adjudication changes on the result of the first race, we've got Box at the back because he didn't finish. We've got penalties for Racers and Virus, so they're going to be close to the back as well. That means we've got some very, very fast drivers who are sitting at the back of the field for a change.
I love it. It's like seeing. It's
almost like a reverse grid race. Yeah. It's almost like a reverse grid race. And I think if Mitch is going to do anything, it has to be early on, because once Leish gets into his stride, he's into his stride.
Yeah. And you know, asking you, Ali, especially Mitch and Roadrunner, who's going to challenge Leish? I mean, you were calling a pass between racers and Roadrunners, turn 9, lap 7. What happens here with Leish? Is he just going to stay at the front, stay out of trouble, and business as usual, or are we going to see someone challenge Leish here?
For me, Mitch is a front-wheel drive hatchback specialist.
Okay.
That was his golden opportunity, the Honda Civic in Race 1.
Yeah.
Race 2 is not going to play into his hands in the same way. Leish loves an understeery car. He loves a car that feels like a road car, like the Corvette we're jumping into now. I think it's going to play into Leish's hands.
Let's confirm the grid then for the second race on the Wednesday Showdown. We're live from here at Seattle. It is Leish and Mitch on the front row. Expect to see them battling. Mitch needs a good start. Roadrunner and Chemical on road 2, then 7 on row 3. But look at the guys at the back.
Yeah.
Asics again. You thought he might come through. Another one of the French contingent. Didn't happen in that first race. But for me, Virus, Box, Racers, all at the back. They're going to be giving Rossi a hard time early on.
Yeah, on the great sort of restaurant menu of racing, when you see all these fast drivers at the bottom of the field, that's very much the steak. I'll order one of those, please.
So well then, I want to ask about that. Box and Racers, who has the better race here?
Who's going to win out? Yeah, that's a good question. Racers needs to find his position in this pecking order. Box is definitely, I would say, second over the course of this season in EMEA.
All right, here we go. Action underway. Circuit de Catalunya as we go on the first straightaway. Look out for this, that first turn. They're going in hot. We see Leish straight to the front. No surprises there. And let's see if any challenges are going to happen. Right now, Racers and Box right next to each other. Maybe exchanging some words here as we enter turn number 1. Look out for the smoke. Look out for the spin outs. We see some of it. There's some smoke coming out, but at the same time, looks like not too much chaos. Each driver here trying to make an issue, trying to find their spot in this pack. A little bit of contact traded here and there, but so far, so clean. We're not seeing any drivers really peel away. Another tight turn here. Let's see what happens as all these, look at the 6 cars here, all bunched up. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But it looks like, as we can see, Rossi kind of in the middle of the pack there, trying to make his way forward. Asics there from Vitality, trying to make a little move here. But it looks like is able to just barely kind of squeak ahead. But again, I'm not seeing any crazy crashes. I'm holding my breath here, so we have another tight turn. But for now, it looks like we're seeing some clean race.
Look at that Box then through up to 9th position from the rear of this pack, all the way from 12th, past both of the Veloce team as well. Those Racers and Virus. Not slouches at Veloce, and Box has made them look, well, not silly, but slow.
And looking at Racers, he is right behind Box once again. This is what we saw in race number 1, so we're looking out for that. Box making another move here, going into 8th position for a moment before slipping back a little bit. And again, we're going to keep a close eye on Box here to see what kind of moves he can make. He has a lot of real estate to deal with. And guys, just to keep you updated, Leish still in the front, so still keeping a close eye on that. And remember, we recap North America with Venom. Leish is absolutely racing for everything right now. He wants first place in all of these, so he can stay in second place ahead of Venom.
Box had that pass made there into turn 9, but he spun up the rear wheels coming out of it. And remember, these guys are racing on a gamepad, on a controller, but with no assists. That's no ABS, no traction control, no stability control. That's why these guys are the best of the best.
Yeah, just grabbing the throttle there, Box, as he gets super defensive into turn 1. Racers, the guy we saw so attacking back at Watkins Glen, now trying to throw a move on TPR Box. It's not going to happen into turn 1. But Box will be looking in his mirrors and wishing he'd gotten away a bit faster.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Box maybe a little nervous right now, knowing what happened in that first race, watching that rearview mirror very closely and trying to hold that defense. We talked about that from the last race. We saw how effective Roadrunners was at boxing out Racers. And speaking of boxing, that's exactly what Box is trying to do here, trying to keep Racers out, keep them away, place, you know, take those tight turns safely, but also stay out of trouble.
I like the difference in style between those guys, Racers and Box. Box, it lifts off the throttle going up the hill and just lets the braking get done by gravity, whereas Racers is hard on the brakes and just settling the car onto the front suspension to get a little bit more turning, and that kills the understeer, of course.
Yeah, Racers very much that's a go-kart mentality. You know, if you're not braking or accelerating, you're doing something wrong. You've got to be pressing an input.
Yeah, and keeping an eye on this, we still see such a close race here in the mid-back of the pack between positions 8, 9, 10. We see Box trying to sneak up here onto that next position at the front of the race. We're seeing Lage, Mitch, Roadrunner, pretty much as expected there. Chemical also in business as well, as we're seeing back at the back of the pack. Racers still trying to make a move on Box, and just such a close affair here as these guys are not leaving too much room at all for error.
And what's happened, of course, is the guys coming through from the back and now in the mid-pack, and it's getting harder
Congested.
and harder to get past the guys because you're getting up to guys who have qualified better than you.
Doesn't get any easier, does it, as you progress through the
No, it gets
field?
harder, yeah.
It gets harder and harder. The guys have more chance to get away as well. Box and Racers, though, I mean, you asked Axel before we started off here.
Who's going to do better?
Who's going to do better? That it's playing out right in front of us. Racers right now not able to get through.
You know what? I mean, they were rivals in the last race. Maybe they're kind of friendly right now, both trying to really make their way through the patches. We see in the front, we're wondering about it, who's going to catch up to Lage, and we see Mitch making a move there, getting very close to him, a little bit closer than comfort would allow perhaps for Lage as he's trying to extend that lead, but maybe for Lage, he's kind of holding his breath a little bit. He's not as far out in front as he was in race number 1.
And that all came from a better exit from the final corner, the right-hander onto the main straight at turn 16. Better exit for Mitch, and he was a little better on the brakes and looks better there on the brakes as well. Might have been close to a tap there as they're heading down the middle part of the straight, down towards the heavy braking area at the end here, and it's all uphill from here. Easy to brake traction as they're now heading up the hill. It's all about momentum from here on.
You don't see it so often, a view like this, following along behind G2 Lage.
I wish we had this in real world. Because what you see both cars and see what the drivers are doing differently. Slightly defensive there by Lage. He's just slightly into the middle of the road at turn 9.
Yeah.
Exactly right, defensive, and I think that's because Mitch is a little bit, he's new, this is his first ForzaRC, and a little bit of an unknown quantity to Lage. He's not sure, is he going to do something silly? Is he going to throw the dive bomb on?
Ooh, a big altercation there, impact there, looks like between, is that Racers and Box again going at it? At this point, it looks like Rossi there, some serious physical contact being exchanged there. It looks like around turn number 11, 12, 13, and we talked about this track, how many technical turns they are, especially in the latter part of this. This is the opportunity for those passes to be made. We saw it with Mitch earlier there, trying to take on Lage, and we're going to keep a very close eye on that as we're heading into that straightaway, entering lap number 4, but look out for those big, those pretty big hits as these guys are trying to make position, because there are opportunities to do that on a lot of these tight turns.
As the battle for the lead rages on through turns 1 and 2, and once again Mitch is right there. Let's go to Brian for some in-race, what's the word I'm looking for? Analysis. There we go.
Let's do some analysis. Let's talk about Lage and Mitch right now. You saw them tail to tail there. They're looking really close. We looked at the lap times. Actually, Mitch is a little bit quicker on the second lap 3 we saw. Mitch is doing a 153, and Lage is about 154, about 4/10 off total. So Mitch has got some pace here. It's just, can he make the move, and will Lage make a mistake to let him in, as we see right here possibly?
Yeah, and I do think at the moment that Mitch, Alex, is a little more comfortable with the car as it stands. He seems to be getting his braking done nice and early, and he's getting on the throttle a bit quicker as well, carrying more speed through the center of the corner, and that's no easy thing to do in this Chevy Corvette straight car.
Yeah, it seems like he keeps closing the gap. He's looking for that opportunity to pass, which is hard to comprehend considering this is Lage. He's one of the best drivers in the world, and he's being challenged right now by Mitch. And Ali, I got to go to you on this. Give me a turn, give me a lap number. if it happens at all, are we going to see Lage get challenged here? Do you see Mitch being able to pull off a pass in this race?
I've completely underestimated Mitch. Hands in the air. Before this race, I said Lage was going to walk, that Mitch didn't have a chance. Absolute credit to Mitch. How much faster has this driver gotten since racing in the Forza Racing Championship? So credit to him. He's going to make the move. Turn 10, last lap. I'm calling it.
I love it.
And Lage is holding him up at the moment. And I don't think I've ever even thought that, never mind vocalized that before, because Roadrunner is closing these guys down.
Yeah.
Now, my question here is, how hard does Lage fight to take the win? Doesn't need the win. He wants the win. Is it professional pride that's on the line here? But there's so much more than just the win in this race that's at stake right now, Alex.
Yeah, Lage is right now effectively competing with Venom. from the North America side, who will be racing later today. So Lage absolutely wants first place in every single one of these races to extend that gap, get as many points as possible. Because, you know, Venom, hey Venom, you're probably watching right now. How you doing? I'm sure he's watching Lage right now, and he's hoping for some sort of no, he's not hoping for any crashes. But, you know, Venom is probably watching this very closely because the results from Lage directly impact his standings as well. That's the race, that's the, you know, a meta layer here of races here. Venom, Lage, top drivers from their respective regions, both fighting in those global standings.
And does Venom take something from this? Because Lage doesn't look quite as invincible as we've sometimes seen him. And this is the new kid on the block, Ali, with Mitch trading tenths of a second. Lage has just pulled the pin in the middle of the race and pulled out 10 car lengths. But I think Venom will be looking at that and thinking, that's not so bad.
You know, I don't see Corvettes around Catalonia here with Mitch and Lage. I see two little bulls in the ring butting heads against each other, and they're finding out which one of them should be scared of the other. I suspect they're both scared of each other, to be perfectly honest.
And I love the skirmish that we're seeing here between 6, 7, and 8. Yes, number 8, that is Box, our hero from race number 1, who got shouldered out of the way early on and is now looking for revenge. He started in the back of the pack trying to make his way through, and now we see him in a pack of about 3 cars here. The 8, 7, 6, you know, we see the 5 position out there not too far away as well. So we got to think Box is looking for an opportunity here to pass. He started the day in the 4th position, so he's trying to find his way back. The question is, can Box make it happen? I'm loving the racing we're seeing here from Box.
Yeah, Box so aggressive on the throttle there through the last sector. You see how the rear suspension compressing, throwing the car left and right as he struggles to put that power onto the asphalt. Awesome stuff from the TPR driver.
Lap 6 out of 7. We're getting close to that final lap. We're going to see some moves happening here. It's now or never for these guys in the second race of the EMEA region on the day. Looking at Box right now, currently in that 8th position, following very close behind 7, who is in the 7th position. I bet you couldn't have called that, but we'll see if that can happen. You got to wonder how much comfort 7 feels right now being in that 7th position. But you know, he's looking to get a little bit faster. But I'm wondering if that pass is going to happen. We see Box following him incredibly closely, getting closer and closer, trying to make it work. We know he's capable, but we're looking out for that spot. You mentioned turn 10 as a potential option for turning. We're seeing some contact here, this time again between 7 and 8, as Box is now making that move, able to get past 7 into that 7th position. And that's exactly what he's looking for. And now his eyes are set on the next objective, which is Asics, who is right in front of him. So Box making a great move there.
Yeah, sticking his finger up in the wind and saying, yeah, I guess I'll fit in that gap. Just throws it in there. Beautiful move from Box up through to 7th position. Keep in mind, 7th falling back now towards the jaws of Asics. And the 2 of those having a big old scrap on the global leaderboard.
I'm loving the way these guys are driving these cars, and some of them trail braking right to the apex, and that is so hard to do when you don't have the assists on. And then it's all about the finesse of the throttle. Otherwise, just huge plumes of smoke coming out of the back of these vets.
Yeah, you're saying it, it's happening on screen, it's finesse. It's all about blending the throttle in as you leave the corner, just making sure those rear tires don't light up. It's happening to 7 here as he gets frustrated looking up forward to Box. He wants to put the power down more than the rear wheels will allow.
Tight turns there at the end of this track, going into this straightaway for the final lap. 7 out of 7. It's now or never in this race. Let's see what happens here. Box doing a great job starting in the pole position, 11 or so, pulling himself up to that 7th position, and you know he's looking for more. Racing incredibly right now, trying to recoup some of that ground that he lost from that first race. And again, we got to keep an eye on the front of the pack. Lage, can he keep that lead in the front? Ali, you said Mitch might be able to pass him on turn 10 of this lap. Right now, we're getting around turn 4, 5 towards 6. So we'll keep a close eye on that. But this is the final lap here, so we'll have to see what moves can be made.
You are meant to remember that.
Of course I do.
I
wrote it down.
It's gonna haunt you.
And I circled it.
Yeah,
Wrote it down, I circled it, and if it doesn't happen,
yeah.
I mean, you know, kudos to you for making the call, but this might be a testament just to how good Lage is, so we'll keep an eye on that. But right now, we're focused on Box here, this storyline of him making it to the front. Now we're getting a shot of the front of the pack. Lage, did he open a gap? Did he hear what you said? He's like, are you kidding me? Do you know who I am? I can't be caught. I'm going to stay in the front, and look at him extending his lead. Mitch looking for that turn 10. We're approaching it right now. Can he make that move? I think he might be a little too far back, and it's up to Lage to make a mistake, which I don't know if that's going to happen.
He closes in on the brakes, though. Lage, he is now driving this car to the checkered flag. He made his move in the 3rd quarter, of this race, pulled the pin and pulled out 10 or so cars lengths over a couple of very quick laps, just when the pressure was on most, and that is impressive for me.
He's so smooth, Leish, you know, able to just resist that pressure, power down and make a gap.
And you know, speaking towards consistency as well, want to point out Roadrunner, who's coasting in 3rd place. That's exactly where he was in the first race as well. So staying consistent, staying smooth, staying defensive as well. A little bit of a battle here and there with that 4th position, but also keeping a close eye on Box. Remember, he's also fighting for pole position in the next round as well. So as we approach the checkered flag, as we get these results coming on in, Virus going to be coasting in there, but Leish in the front, staying there. We saw Mitch there in 2nd place, Roadrunner in 3rd, keeping calm, keeping smooth. But I think the story of this race is Box. You know, going from that result in race number 1, knowing what's on the table here for race number 2, not only racing for position, but also pole position going into the next race too. It's better to start in that 7th than in that 12th that we saw here.
And we saw a different race there for Leish, under pressure for big parts of that race, Ali. And, you know, he weathered that storm. Mitch did give it everything. There was a couple of mistakes. That allowed Leish to build the gap, and that was all she wrote. He only needs the tiniest of openings on that door, and the foot's in, the knee's in, the elbow's in, the whole, he's gone. The door's pushed open, it's off its hinges at that point.
Yeah, you're so right. I'm sitting here, you know, while you're talking as well, doing a little bit of maths, trying to get
maths,
it right.
It's only arithmetic.
Arithmetic.
It's not quadratic equations.
Quadratic equations. Doing my maths
A
homework.
squared plus B squared, all right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Leish in the final race needs a 3rd place finish. And you've got to keep in mind that's a big ask for a driver who usually starts from the rear of the pack, and I think has an average of like 1-2 overtakes in the reverse grid race.
He's not been at his best in the reverse grids.
Right, and so he needs to pull it out here, drive of his life, and he can be up there beating TX3 Wesley on that global leaderboard.
I like Box, and Alex was right to pull out and highlight Box. He comes back from disappointment. Would have been easy to overdrive the car, Alex. And on that circuit with that car, overdriving wasn't an option. He calmed himself down. He made the passes. Was there a bit of paid traded? Yes, there was, but I don't have an issue with that.
And, you know, especially considering the guy he was next to at you know, Racers was right next to him. We saw them side by side there, and you got to wonder what he's thinking there. And then he moves ahead, and he's like, okay, Racers right behind me. You know, maybe he has to adjust his driving style a little bit to make sure a crash doesn't happen and make sure to avoid that danger. You know, that's one of the keys in Forza, making those passes, but also staying safe. That's a very important part. And we saw that from Box there, able to make his way gradually while also staying safe at the same time. Because what did he make there? Like five passes or so? And we saw some contact here and there, but no crashes, which is exactly what he avoided. So I think that race goes to Box there. Just a great, awesome, just positional progress there, going from the very back, getting that 7th, 6th position, and then also I love what you were saying there about Leish. You know, he had to face adversity there. You know, he's used to being in the front. He's used to being in the front and just getting out of the way. I wonder what was going through his mind there for a second when halfway through that race, we saw Mitch kind of being like, hey, what's going on, Leish? I'm up here too.
He had a couple of little goes at the leader, but not a concerted effort. There wasn't a time when it was right up the inside and getting side by side. But there was enough there to show promise from Mitch, was there not?
Is that a safety thing for Mitch? Is he like, once he gets to that front spot, he's like, wait a second, I'm getting too close to Leish. What if they both crash and they're out, right? Is that more of him being a little conservative?
Well, I like what Ali was saying earlier on about building a reputation for yourself.
Yeah.
And, you know, Mitch is, you know, is in experience terms, a little bit further down the ladder, and in terms of being seen by race control, a little bit further down the ladder. So he doesn't want to do anything silly once he is in the spotlight at the front of the field.
What I saw there was Mitch, the new driver in the championship, you know, right on his tiptoes, managing to touch the net. You know,
yeah,
and Leish going, yeah, okay, good job, you've managed that, and it's popping the ball straight in, no hassle at all. You know, Mitch has to work very, very hard, is what I mean by that, in order to race with Leish.
Yes.
Whereas Leish looked composed, he looked relaxed, and when he needed to, he put that pace down.
Yeah, he did. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from that second race of the Wednesday Showdown live here from Seattle. Brian has some of the analysis. That's the word that we know and love. Brian, what do you got?
You know, before we get to the replay, I just want to sort of put myself and the audiences in Box's shoes, starting at 12th with the following names ahead of you: Racers, Virus, Rossi, Asics, Dino, you've got to make a pass on all of these guys. Now, we've seen Box in other series and in earlier seasons of the ForzaRC struggle a little bit with sort of rising up to what he needed to do in a race. Here, I think, is a perfect example of him starting in the back and really pushing and fighting for every position he got. We're going to take a look at that a little bit as we get to the replay here and show you exactly some of the moments you've seen and some of the moments you might have missed from the race that we just finished. Started with a great race between some great action at the start, a relatively clean start at Catalunya, which in these kind of cars is always something great. Here's Box really pushing in for that 8th position. You saw some contact. There's Dino, actually, and something that we might have missed in the live race, Dino and Rossi coming together there. Rossi finished provisionally in 9th, I believe, Dino in 11th. But we also saw some contact between Box and his former teammate, Seven. These guys were fighting for position. They were trying to make things happen. And we know that there has been some friction between those guys in the past. But Box, what a drive from him.
Yeah, great Box. Roadrunner on the social media saying not happy with his first 3 laps. The car was understeer central. Not sure what he expected with the, the Chevy Corvette. Even with my limited experience of driving in Forza, I would have expected that, Ali, to be honest.
Thank the fans for that, I guess.
Yes, no, I said I like the choice.
I want to kidnap Brian, though, before we disappear. Last week, we were standing in just this situation.
Yes.
And we were talking about Rossi and Mitch, and you've just been mentioning the two of them. We were talking then about the top dog at JSR.
Yes.
You know, who's up there, who's fighting, and it looks like we're seeing a change of power there.
And it's happened in just a few weeks, right? Now, Rossi is a longtime ForzaRC competitor, one of the nicest guys in the entire competition, super fast, but we've always said a very polite driver. And now we're seeing maybe a change of the guard here at JSR. It's hard to believe that someone could actually ascend to that top position in that team, but here we are. Mitch is making a case to be the top dog.
Very impressed with Mitch and his attitude, as we were talking about earlier, given that this is, pretty much his first time we've had a good look at him. You said you underestimated him. You won't do that again, will you?
I will. Unbelievable. Doing that in a rear-wheel drive car, street car, soft suspension. That's Leij's home court. He's got all the advantage there, and Mitch keeping him very honest.
And I'm wondering if there's something to be said. And I love the commentary from Roadrunner. We have a commentator in the chat. I love it. Roadrunner, keep it up. Thanks for hanging out and giving us your thoughts in the chat. But from his perspective, he was saying, okay, his pacing wasn't feeling that well. How does Mitch's performance kind of tie into this? Because we were kind of seeing Mitch have like almost the race of his life, catching up to Leij. Like, he was racing really well. And then you have Roadrunner in that 3rd position. That's a good spot, I think. Like, being in 3rd, I'm like, that's pretty good. So is that more like, okay, Mitch was just able to run away and Mitch was going after Leij? Like, is that more on just Mitch just having an awesome day rather than Roadrunner just not able to keep up?
Well, and don't forget, again, we're not just talking about the results of that race in isolation, because Commando, with whom Roadrunner is battling for that 11th position, not there. Not in the big points there. And this is the global positions we're talking about here. And that ultimately is what we'll be talking about at the end of the day today, that sets the invitations for the playoffs that Alex will be with us for in a couple of weeks' time. My other point about that, and to follow up on what Alex was saying, just how much has Leij got in reserve? If he can get pushed Brian to that point and then just go, I'll put a couple of demon laps in and break Mitch's heart.
He might have to, because remember, race 3 we're starting with a reverse grid. So Leij, if he wants that sweep, if he's really battling for second overall on the global leaderboards, he's going to have a box-like drive and then some.
Yes.
Because he's starting in the back for according to the provisional results, he's starting in the back. So we'll see how that goes. I also want to point out one thing. Isn't it nice to see a race with Commando where something bad isn't happening to Commando? That's a good point. I love that.
Yes, he had a quiet, boring race. It wasn't the
Yes,
result
that's what we want for Commando. Boring races.
He needs that once in a while. Absolutely. As Danica Patrick said when she was qualifying for the Indy 500, I need 4 very boring laps. Well, that was 7 very boring laps for Commando there. Not perhaps the result that he wanted. 2/3 of our racing completed. We'll come back with the results and the build-up to race 3, the reverse grid. And it happens right here next from the Wednesday Showdown, live from Seattle. Well, we have one final race to go for the Wednesday Showdown for the EMEA part of our championship, and this is the last opportunity for drivers, for competitors to add to their points tally. But before that, we've got to round up race 2 results, which we'll do after we've heard from Kate.
Well, you may have noticed a new face, a guy who offered a whole lot of insight, and that was Alex Rodriguez. And if you've ever raced him in the gaming community, it's axle toss. You may have noticed that. But in order to maintain your keep here, and because it's IndyCar month, we thought it would be appropriate for Alex to have to endure Hindy 500.
I love that idea, the Hindy 500. We've all gone through it. It's a rite of passage. I have the tough questions. Alex is in the hot seat, the warm seat. You ready?
I am in the hot seat, about to go for an afternoon drive. I'll pick up some lunch for us, and I'll be right back.
That's fast food. That is fast food. All right, quick fire questions.
Okay.
Best driver, is it a hot lap specialist or a clean racer?
A hot lap specialist, or can you repeat that one more time?
A hot lap specialist or a clean racer? Which makes the better driver?
A clean racer, final answer.
Okay, that's good. I like that. There's no right or wrong answers here, unless we say it they are.
It's got to be clean, man. You know, I respect all the drivers out there, but keep it clean, and you can show your skill without any messiness.
Okay, that's good. You're at Spa-Francorchamps. You're driving down from the La Source hairpin, turn 1, down into that dip ready to go up over the top of Eau Rouge and Radillon. Do you take the number 66 Ford GT, Le Mans winning car, or the Hennessy Venom?
Ford GT. I'll keep it true to the American roots here and go with the Ford brand. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Here's an interesting one for you. It's on the card. Rolls-Royce or Royal Wedding?
This is Forza, man. It's all about the Rolls-Royce. Get me in that, and then I'll give you guys a ride over to the UK, and we'll check that out.
And we'd go in style, and we would be adequately looked after as well. Daytona 500 or Daytona Beach Spring Break?
Can we do both? I gotta go Daytona 500. I'm already situated in LA, so I can hang out at the beach when I want. But the Daytona 500, I can't get that everywhere.
There's a noise and a smell of the high-octane gasoline in NASCAR that is nothing like anything else in the world. That is definitely the right answer. Now, this is one about comfort or not. Heated seats or race seat?
Heated seats or what?
Race seat.
Rest seat?
Race seat.
Oh, you got to get the race seat. You're always in the race seat. Even if you're on your computer right now, you're in your racing seat ready to go. Final answer.
Lord of the Rings or the Nürburgring?
Ooh, oh my gosh. I have to go with Lord of the Rings because there's some racing in Lord of the Rings. Go back and watch it. You know, there's some racing going on that should be considered here. So don't underestimate the meta races happening in Lord of the Rings. Watch that flick again and keep racing in mind.
Formula Hobbit. I'm not entirely certain about that one. All right, last question. Who's going to win the third race?
Oh my gosh, box. Final answer.
Okay. Alex, you've been in the hot seat for the Hindy 500. Thank you very much indeed. You'll do fine in our playoffs in a couple of weeks' time. Let's look at the final results from race number 2. We've gone straight through adjudication, and here's how it stands.
Yeah, Lage there, sitting at the front, taking that win back. It's going to be a big old penalty for 7, who tumbles down that order, and that's interesting. 2 points for 7 and 5 for Asics means that the order there is starting to get a little bit fruity. I think there's only 9 between them coming into the final race. Mitch, though, continuing to look very strong here with that second place, and Roadrunner with a podium finish as well, so not too shabby from him.
Yeah, and those points will be being added up even as we speak. Liège once again getting the full 20. Mitch adding that 15 to his score for the first time in the Wednesday Showdown, with Roadrunner again in 3rd position. I just get the feeling that Roadrunner is just about doing enough to get through. Let's head back to Kate as we get ready for our third contest of the day in the final Wednesday Showdown, live here from Seattle. This is the reverse grid race. Kate.
Oh my goodness, it's going to get very interesting. Before we announce which car these guys are going to be jumping into, let's go ahead and take a look at Road America. Road America is basically the nation's park for speed. It's unbelievable. This track has long straights. It has 14 turns. It's over 4 miles of racing. There's elevation and surface changes. You know, turn 1, it's much quicker than it appears. Turn 3, it's difficult with that downhill area that really you have to control your top speed all the way through turns 4 to 5. There's a good passing area right there at turn 5. And then something to note, turn 12 to the finish line, it's all uphill. Okay, the big question is, are they in the Chevy or are they in the Honda? And the answer to that, my friends, is going to be the James Hinchcliffe. The number 5 Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports IndyCar. I think there's a couple of people back here in studio that are excited about that. You know, James finished 20th at Road America last year, but this is one of those tracks that for him, it is iconic. He dreams of racing here, and I think this is going to make for one very interesting race. Gentlemen?
I'm very, very happy that Piers Phillips and Sam Schmidt and Lena Gade have got their car, that Arrow car, at least in our month of May race, despite the fact that James at the moment won't be in the Indy 500. Although I did notice that his teammate Jack Harvey had his other Canadian teammate Robert Wickens had a problem in Indy practice earlier on this week, and so that isn't set. That Indy 500 grid is not set. Let's take a look at the grid then. We know that we're racing in that Arrow James Hinchcliffe car, and here's how it stands on the reverse rate. And things to notice straight away: in 12th place, Leige has to do it all, but that gives us somebody very interesting on the front row.
It does. It does. Racers right up there. The guy super aggressive so far in his debut performance, but also very, very fast indeed. I want to call out a battle, though, that we're going to see race out on this track. Mitch, currently behind Box by 5 points on the global leaderboard. If Mitch can beat Box here by a margin of 5, he is going to be 1 position higher in the seeding coming out of the season.
Mitch starting in 11th, Box starting where he should have been for the first race in 4th position. Let's get to the racing. We're at America's National Park of Speed, and Alex Rodriguez has the action.
Heading down the starting straightaway reverse grid action, we're certain to see a lot of passing in this race. 8 laps here on Road America, the full circuit, going first into turn 1, a kind of a gradual turn there. Turn 2, gradual as well. Already a spin out. Who went away there? Was that Roadrunner? Roadrunner getting a glimpse from this race. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. We're sure to go to Brian Eckberg on that a little bit later, but just like that, anything can happen at the start of this race. It looks like that happened around turn 2, and now you see that little dot at the very back of the race on that little mini map. That's Roadrunner trying desperately. He's going to spend the whole race trying to catch back up as we head into turn number 4 into 5, going around turn number 6 here as we see Mitch making some moves already. And again, reverse grid, we're going to see a lot of passes happen here. There we see Mitch at number 9 spot. There we see at number 8, we see Commando having some boring races, but as we said, he might be okay with that. But as of right now, Leige still in the back at number 11, so looking out for him as well as this race getting underway.
And rather typically, Leige, a slow start from his reverse grid starting position. He's made up 1, but that's all. And that was because Roadrunner spun off ahead of him. He's not that aggressive when it comes to these reverse grid races.
He's either not aggressive enough, as we've seen here, or a little bit too aggressive. He doesn't really know how to pace himself, so Leige definitely going to have to keep his clever hat on as Roadrunner. Yeah, riding a very expensive lawnmower right there.
Yeah, trying to make his way back, and you know, we saw that spin out in the front from Roadrunner. Maybe Leige was kind of feeling that, trying to stay safe and super cautious, which means he's going to stay at the back here as we see Mitch making a decent move, going into position number 7. Again, as you mentioned, Ali, he's trying to make those moves, trying to catch up to Box. But as the most eloquent and ingenious analyst predicted, Box winning the whole thing a little bit ago in that race car over there, that might be a tall order here for Mitch, so he's still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, Box currently in 3rd position in this race. So already on the podium there, a good start from Box, but yeah, as you say, Mitch chasing him down. Leige trying to just get the power down here. I think he's gotten away with no damage after that start.
Yeah, agreed. And he's finding his feet in the middle of this race. And these are the hard laps for him now as he gets into the midfield. Leige, the very fast Frenchman, has now got to put some quick laps in and try and get up the field as far as he can. The good news is one of his competitors for the big points this weekend, Roadrunner, is already at the back of the pack.
Yeah, and that was due to that spin-off a little bit earlier. Roadrunner desperately trying to close that gap, but he's still 500 feet or so behind that 11th position. So again, going to be playing catch-up for the majority of this race. Again, 8 laps on this track. Plenty of room to make some room back up, but again, these are the best drivers in the world almost. So that's a tall order trying to catch up, even if you're that far behind. So we'll keep a close eye on that. But meanwhile, looking out for any movements happening here in the middle of the pack. For now, it seems like everything's staying pretty smooth. We're not seeing too much contact anywhere. These drivers really keeping their distance, keeping their space, playing it really safe. We see Lage, again, slowly but surely, you know, applying some pressure to 7, who's right in front of him there in that position number 8. So we're going to keep a close eye once again on Lage throughout this race as we're looking for those moves to happen. Now, Ali, I want to ask you, man, you know, we've talked about the turns that these drivers need to focus on to make those passes. Is there a turn on this track here, Road America, where you're looking out for those moves to happen? If you're a Lage, if you know you have the skill, you know you have the speed to make it happen, what turns are you really looking for to try to get those advantages? Yeah,
I mean, we're just coming out here through turn 2, and we'll go down the hill and towards what's called turn 5 here at the bottom of it. There's a few kinks there called turns. That's definitely your best overtaking opportunity through Road America, and the place everyone's going to be looking in their mirrors and gauging for that dive bomb.
Okay. Just a note that out at the head of the field, we've still got the new Veloce driver who went out from pole position. Virus has disappeared, and you know, this is his first time in the showdown since he changed teams, and he's repaying the confidence that Veloce, one of the newer teams in ForzaRC, have put in him.
Yeah, I'm glad you raise it, because Virus and Racers, both of them representing Veloce there and leading this race 1-2, so nice to see.
Let's head to Brian for some more in-race analysis.
Very quickly, I just wanted to point out the stakes for Mitch and Lage right now. We've seen some moves from both these guys come from the back, move up. Mitch is actually in great position right here as he's in 7th. He needs to get in the top 4 in order to win this race, and Lage needs to be on, Mitch, if he ends up in the top 3 and Lage finishes 4th or worse, Mitch can win today's events today.
Wow.
So I don't exactly know how much he's got that on his mind. He's probably just focusing on turn after turn. But if Mitch can make up a few more spots, get on that podium, and Lage finish 4th or worse, it could be very good news for Mitch.
Yeah, that's a good point, because Mitch has already had 2 second places, and he's higher up the field at the moment in this reverse grid race as we're heading towards half distance. Alex Rodriguez has the action.
Yeah, now we're looking at Box here in that 3rd position, and look at this, Box and Racers. Can you think of a combo from today that we're saying more and more? I mean, this is the rivalry that we saw in the first race where Racers knocked Box up a little bit and he got penalized for it. So now Box in the other position behind Racers trying to make a pass happen, but noting this moment here, this front of the pack, Box getting closer and closer to Racer. He's definitely looking for that move, but kudos to Virus right now, holding that lead in the front, trying to play a smart race here. But as we can see, Racer's also inching closer and closer to the back of his car as well. So the top 3 right now, incredibly close here at the front of the pack.
Box and Racers fighting over 2nd position there, but they've been a very volatile couple, like Pepsi and Mentos.
Yep.
Every time they've gotten together, one of them's ended up off track so far.
Oh, that's incredible. And again, you know, ultimately they might be helping each other out, both trying to track down Virus, who remains in the front there, trying to hold off Racers, who's just behind him. So again, we're going to keep a close eye on the front of this pack as all these drivers jockeying for position. Rossi a little bit further off the back. The front 3 drivers within 75 feet of each other, and then our 4th driver, Rossi, is another 150 feet back. So that pretty much tells the story of just how close it is here at the front of this race. We're about halfway through, 4 laps out of 8, so still plenty of room left here. And I'm also curious if we're going to see any moves from Lage at the back. For now, we see him in that 8th position, so slowly but surely making some moves. Remember, he started at the very back, so making his way through the pack here. And again, when you're doing that, we saw it from Box in race number 2. Sure, you're making passes, but you also have to be safe about it, because if you're making a pass that goes a little bit the wrong way, you could send yourself and another driver careening off the track. So you got to make these passes, but you got to be safe and smart.
Great battle going on for 2nd and 3rd at the moment, and it's the 2 Veloce guys out front at the moment. Not sure if there's any team orders there, but the top 3 are pretty much equidistant here, Ali. And this is good racing from both of the Veloce drivers out front. Virus just controlling it at the moment, but he doesn't seem to be able to pull away from races in second.
It's one of those very tense moments, isn't it, John, where, you know, racers will want to get past Virus, but at the same time, he'll be thinking, I don't want to bump into him. I want to hold back a little bit. And Box piling the pressure on as well. I don't know, it just makes a little bit, it's not an easy ride for this teammate. So that's what I mean here. It's very tense, the two of them.
It's always the worst thing being in the middle of the battle because you're trying to attack and defend. It makes that doubly difficult when it's your teammate ahead of you because any slight mistake, you get attacked from behind. You're in real trouble. Battles down in the packs, Alex.
Yeah, we're getting a shot here, a 7 here, drifting back to position number 10. Commando there, we see just ahead of him there in position number 9. And I think another very interesting fight that we're seeing is going to be not only between the top 3, which I think is very fascinating, that we see both Veloce racers in the front there, but also keep a close eye on number 6 and number 7, Mitch and Lage. We've talked about them this entire day and the moves they're able to make, so I'm going to be very interested in that battle between those two to see if Lage can catch up to Mitch, as it was the opposite occasion in the last race where we saw Mitch trying to catch up to Lage and trying to pass him. So we'll have to see if the fortunes can be reversed and Lage can show Mitch outstunned.
I like to see Lage in these kinds of situations.
Yes.
It's always interesting to have a new challenge, right? A new way of threatening these drivers and making them work. Virus working very hard.
Top 3 absolutely together, coming out the carousel and heading down towards the far side of the circuit, and this is exceptionally good racing. Down towards Canada Corner now, and the two Veloce guys looking to just block things out at the head of the field. Excuse me, they're not at that part of the circuit at all. They're going up the hill to turn 5 in the Corvette Bridge. My apologies, took my eyes away for a moment. But what we have got is a 3-way battle, and I think, Alex, soon to be a 4-way battle, because Rossi is closing in on the top 3.
Yeah, Rossi sneaking up there in that 4th position, but what a fascinating battle in the top 3. You know, reverse grid, Veloce, they could not have predicted themselves being here, being the front 2 drivers, but you got to think they're going to try to take advantage of that, really play safe. But the one guy who wants to disrupt all of this is Box, and he has been breathing down the neck of Virus and racers this entire way through. So we see Rossi trying to make his way through. Wait a second. Did Lage just make a move? Lage jumping all the way to 4th? Am I seeing that correctly?
Must have been just like a little lag jump or something back there. I think Lage is running steady in 7th right now. Could be incorrect. Otherwise, we'd see him all over the front of Rossi's car. Right here at the front of the pack, though, we're looking backwards down the road from racers. And where has Box gone? Where has Box disappeared to?
We'll keep an eye on that, but for now we have eyes on our front 2 drivers there, Virus and Racers. I'm not sure exactly where Box is, but we'll keep an eye on that. For now, though, it's looking like Virus in the front, holding that lead, just ahead of his teammate. And again, these guys trying to play safe, trying to play clean. And
Box still in 3rd position, confirmed from timing and scoring.
Box
still
in 3rd
sitting
position,
there.
but again,
This is what it says about Lage at the moment at the top. That's just a little timing glitch at the moment. Get it in the real world as well. But play the Jaws music because Rossi is closing in slowly but surely.
Yeah, I mean, definitely got to keep an eye on that.
Mistake.
We see, again, just this dynamic with the Veloce guys, their teammates, they're next to each other. A little bit of bumping here and there. Both racing with everything on the line, but at the same time, you know, they don't want to do anything too crazy, understanding what's at stake here. So does it come down to a respect move where you let him go, or does racers really press it to Virus? But as we mentioned earlier, Rossi getting closer and closer to the front of that pack, trying to challenge these racers in the front.
This could be an awkward debrief in the Veloce transporter, virtual transporter afterwards, if those guys carry on banging rails. Box just sitting in 3rd position, and Rossi closing them down as they're heading towards the last lap and a half down towards, now this is Canada Corner, and from here it's uphill all the way. I can tell you that's how I once rode a push bike all the way around there in the Tour de Road America.
Be out of breath up that hill.
Oh man.
I mean, but going back down is probably a blast if you wanted to try that out.
Yeah, the problem is we ran it the correct way. So you get the downhill at the start, and when you've been pedaling for nearly 4 miles, you get the uphill at the end. It's not perfect. Across the line, to start another lap. The Veloce guys now with a gap, and we're going to have a battle, Alex, for third position, with Box now being closed in on by Rossi.
Yeah, again, keeping a close eye on that. Kudos to these Veloce guys, playing it safe, playing it smooth.
Rossi's through.
Riding their lines, they're keeping these turns tight, and they're staying in the front, and they're also not messing with each other too much. We're seeing some bumps here and there between these two guys, but we're also seeing them kind of back off a little bit. So again, respecting each other, respecting the race, and that's exactly where they want to be. Comfortable in the front and holding their spot, but again, we've got to look out for Box. We've got to look out for Rossi. They're always looming just behind, and with not too many laps left, this is the time where we're going to start to see some moves perhaps taking place. Not too much real estate left in this race, so this is the time for those moves to happen. And Ali, you mentioned it earlier, looking at turn 5, 6, and 7. There's a lot of tight areas on this track where those moves can be made, so we're going to keep a close eye on that.
I love watching fights between teammates like this, especially new ones. We've got races here and Virus measuring each other up in the Veloce paddock. It's fun because there's, it's one of those things where you have like a little tap, one of them knocks the other knocks the other, and it escalates, and by the end of the race, it's real aggression, and it's absolute on-the-limit driving.
But they can't afford this because Rossi is gaining on them very quickly indeed. He made short work of Box up into third position, and I think that the Veloce guys now realise that they're being closed in on, and what was just a nice bit of I'll follow my leader after you, Claude, no after you, Sebastian.
What
They're
is
side
that
by
move?
side.
Oh my gosh, what is the no, oh no, that's a disaster. Okay, we had a little bit of a physical altercation there between our front two racers. They're teammates, but they're going neck and neck, and we saw a little bump, and I think Racers was the one who didn't work out so well with Rossi in the front, and that was a disaster there for Racers, getting dropped back a little bit. And just like that, anything can happen in these races. Just it takes one little move, one little wrong tap on the controller, and you can send your teammate peeling off the track.
We talked about Racers early on, right? And he didn't have a lot to lose, and sometimes I think you just got to lick the stamp and send it. He gave it a go. He gave it a go last corner of the race. It didn't work out.
Well, the thing was, it almost let Rossi in there as well. That was the problem. You don't mind having a battle between your teammates if it's just going to affect who's first and who's second. But when it allows someone from another team in, that's something different. There may be a few harsh words there at the end. We'll get the results for you in a moment or two. Up until that final corner, I have to say, guys, I was very impressed with the way the Veloce team were working as a team. It did look as if there was some team, if not team orders, at least some team driving going.
I think I stick with what I was saying during the race. I think at the start, team drive, and then a little bit of a tap between, one and the other. The taps become more constant, they escalate, and by the end there's real aggression. I think Racers with that last move might feel as though Virus maybe didn't leave him enough track on the outside.
Ushered him gently off the circuit.
This way, sir.
Yes, in IMSA you've got to leave a car's width between you. That's the generally in most forms of racing you've got to leave room on the outside, racing room. I think the dynamic at the front changed, Alex, when we had Boxer drop back a little bit, possibly having made a mistake, and that let the Veloce guys off the hook a little bit. But once Rossi got through, then it was clear that there was going to be a bit more pressure from behind, and that's when Racers thought, I've got to do something about this.
Yeah, and especially considering this was reverse grid, like there could, Virus and Racers could not predict themselves being next to each other in the front of the race. It's almost a dream scenario for them, the way it just worked out that way. And then from there, asking if it becomes kind of a team element at that point, I feel like it absolutely does. You got to be a little bit safe, keep yourselves in the front, but then we saw a little bit more bumping at the end, and at that point, you got to be careful about that guy in third. And Rossi was right behind them, but ultimately it worked out for Veloce, and they're able to stay in the front.
Ali, what it is great news for one of the newer teams in Forza, in the Forza Racing Championship. Veloce, they had their time in the spotlight at the front, and that will do them no harm as an organisation.
Yeah, absolutely right, and this is what it's all about, racing at this level on Forza Motorsport. This is where you get seen. This is where all of it happens. It's lovely to see. I love it from a community point because you get all of the teams who and you know how much effort goes into them, and they really get celebrated.
Let's take a look at the provisional results then. bit of contact further down the field that will be being looked at the moment. Virus and, oh yes, Rossi did get through into second. So there's that real point of contention between Virus and Races, and that is not going to go down well with the Veloce management. Rossi will be absolutely delighted with that. That was a fine drive through the field. Asics in 4th position. Box dropping down the field, finished where? 8th position.
Yeah,
so that was a problem late on for Box. We saw him losing some ground, and that's very bad news indeed for the driver, who is battling for 5th in the global standings.
Yeah, mathematics are currently happening in my head.
We've got the abacus out.
Faster, maths hamster. Let's go.
I feel like
Put your shoes and socks back on, will you, please? Please. There's no need for that.
What about MVD, if I may, most valuable driver from that race, guys? Lage almost we're like, okay, you know, he just got first in both those first 2 races. Now he's starting at the very back. What are we going to see from him? He makes it all the way to 5th place.
And that is one of the better drives I think we've seen him do in the reverse grid. Now, there were circumstances going on around him that helped him out a little bit, but we did see him make some passes, which has not always been the case with Lage.
It's not always been the case. It was one of his better performances for sure, but Lage needed 3rd. He couldn't afford anything less. And with that score, I don't think, by my calculations, Lage isn't going to make it past 2nd position on this leaderboard.
Let's leave that little bit of arithmetic for later on, as Brian has joined us to go through the highlights and some analysis of race number 3 in the Wednesday Showdown. Brian, what you got?
Yeah, I wanted to focus a little bit on the Veloce guys. They had that great start. They had a great position starting right at the front in this reverse order grid, and these guys were fighting it out the entire time. At times, maybe not looking like teammates so much as we were talking about it, but let's take a look at the start. And maybe you missed this, but you saw a mistake from Roadrunner early on. Sort of disappointment as we're heading into right out of the first corner here. You see, actually into the second corner here, you see Roadrunner, I don't know, maybe a bit too much gas there. It didn't look like contact to me. It looked like he just wheeled it around too hard. And boy, another costly mistake after 2 third-place finishes for Roadrunner. You gotta feel he's probably disappointed with that. But really, we saw a lot of these guys back and forth between Racers and Virus, looking for the best position. And then as the race got towards the end there, these guys were getting chippy. We saw some contact. We saw Virus pushing Racers a bit wide there at that long straight uphill to the start finish. Not exactly looking like teammate behavior, but a win is a win.
Well, you never put yourself on the outside in any form of racing. You're asking for the guy just to gently usher you off. Excuse me, coming through. It's just one of those unwritten rules in racing that you don't do it. I'll be interested to see how the adjudicators look at that. We'll have news on that when we come back. Adjudication in full flow at the moment, full results from race 3 and how they stand after the final Wednesday Showdown for the North American region. That's all coming next, live here from Seattle.
Well, it is IndyCar month, and we are celebrating that by obviously racing with James Hinchcliffe in that number 5 Schmidt Peterson Motorsport car. But more importantly, what an incredible race on a track that really celebrates that of IndyCar at Road America. But hey, let's fast forward to the weekend that's coming up, and that is the Indy 500. Gentlemen, I think this is something that really strikes a fancy with anybody and everybody in racing, right?
Gentlemen, start your engines. Or should I say, drivers, start your engines, because Danica Patrick in the Danica Double 500, she raced in the Daytona 500. That was her last NASCAR race. This is her last IndyCar race, got into the Firestone Fast 9. She will undoubtedly be a contender there. But Ed Carpenter has done it again, third time on pole position at the Brickyard. I can't wait. I get home just in time to watch qualifying on Saturday at Monaco and the Monaco Grand Prix, and then Sunday is written out completely because Sunday evening is Indy 500. Take me back to Indiana. Thank you very much indeed.
I am so, you know that Indy is my hometown, Indianapolis, Indiana,
I'm very
hometown
envious.
girl, and I am actually going to be trackside, pitside with IndyCar for
All right,
that,
you can leave
covering
now.
that.
Go.
And I'm only saying that because I want to express.
cool.
It is no, it's I want to express how cool it really is because you're down there during qualifying, right? And the importance of what this really means. You're talking about Ed Carpenter getting his third pole, yet not getting a win. Then you have Elio, who has been in there, has come back to IndyCar just for the Indy 500. You have Danica Patrick. All of these people, the life in Indy is so special right now, and there's so many
Is it a
stories.
mad month of May? For you live there. Does it completely change the whole atmosphere of the city when May comes
Absolutely.
around?
You know, I think more importantly, we are using hashtag This Is May in Indy.
Yeah.
This is Indy, this is May. And I think it is exactly what it's all about. The energy is different. You kick it off, obviously, with the GP. And actually, prior to that, they had the day testing at the Indy, at IMS prior. So the whole month of May is really what is all racing. And here at ForzaRC, we know that very well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. A quick final word. Can anybody beat the Penske powerhouse, all four of their cars in the Fast 9?
This has been the ongoing conversation. Obviously, Ed Carpenter Racing had a great showing getting all three of their drivers in the Fast 9. But Penske is just... It's Indy, and it's Penske, and they have Chevy. So what do you have to say about that? It's just... they know how to get it done. We'll see what happens. Obviously, having Roger Penske as the captain of that team, they know how to race. They know how to get it done. They have so many past championships and wins. We'll see.
And as far as our season concerned, Indy's a bit like the Super Bowl of IndyCar racing right in the middle of the season. As far as our Super Bowl is concerned, it does come at the end of the season. That will be the World Finals in London. Before that, we've got to go through the playoffs. And the first playoff here, a couple of weeks' time. Ali, looking forward to that. What do you reckon in terms of what we're going to see there? Does form go out of the window, or does the momentum gained now in these final few races carry on with you to the playoffs themselves?
For some drivers, the momentum carries on. I particularly, though, want to think about Roadrunner here. Where are you, Roadrunner? In there somewhere. This guy's a beast in lands. He comes along and just finds pace from not from nowhere. He's very fast online, but doesn't shine in the same way. I'm just super curious to see what Roadrunner can do now that we're going back to an environment that suits him as a racer.
That's a good point, because we are changing the racing conditions effectively for all of these guys. When they come back, there will be racing in the same room as their competitors. They're not used to that. We've seen some people thrive, like Roadrunner, and Alex, we've seen some people who just don't like it, and it phases them massively.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive difference between online play and actual LAN play. You are there in person. You are traveling potentially a very long way.
Yeah.
You have to deal with jet lag. You have to deal with a different setup. You're not at what you're comfortable in your home. However, there is a really nice element where you're not going to be dealing with too many issues, because it's all going to be nice in the internet. It's not going to have any issues. You don't have to worry about that. If your ISP isn't that great back home, it is the perfect competitive environment, and that is what competitive pro-competitive drivers that's what they live for, to be in that competitive environment in that place. And I'm super curious to see who's going to take that, use that as momentum, and who will thrive in that environment.
Well, let's remind everybody how we're getting to the Series 1 playoffs. That's here in Seattle through the middle part of June, live. Alex on point for that with Ali and the rest of the team. And that's what's brought us to it on the left-hand side of your screen. For those who don't get the invitation, Ali, we start all over again in July with Series 2 going towards Mexico City, and then it all comes together in London in the biggest season of Forza Racing Championship that we've ever had, for the biggest prize pot that we've ever had. It's all on the line.
It's all on the line. What a huge, huge year we've been having. A massive amount of events, loads of ways to play Forza Motorsport competitively. I think we should all take a break after the playoff and just, like, you know, do the old self-pat-on-back moment. But not for too long. Straight back in, as you say, the season continues with Series 2, and you can get right back into the action.
I hope people watching really appreciate that. And you saw that slide we just showed you guys. We gave you the dates. Mark it down. It could be you. You know, we're watching all these guys who just made it. I think everyone we just saw, they are going to be in attendance pretty much at our playoffs here in a couple of weeks. They may well have started watching, or maybe they're like, okay, you know, maybe this could be for me. I mean, there's no reason you can't go and try to compete, especially if you're enjoying Forza and you want to, you know, this is an opportunity for those of you out there to get that spot in the limelight. This is the avenue for you.
And I've got to say, taking off all of the assists is the bravest thing that you can ever do. Trust me, I've been trying it the last week or so. It's been intense just in some of the online lobbies. I'm racing Class C cars, got a little Alfa Giulietta that I run in there in Lavazza, coffee colours.
Wah, 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 wah.
Well,
S2000, mate.
Do I look like an S2000, don't I? Do I look like an S2000? Just careful where, careful where you're going.
There's time to train. I mean, it doesn't start until July, right? So if you're watching right now and you're like, oh man, why wasn't I a part of this? Well,
there's no reason
coming up in July. Start training right now. You know, we have a little break here between the EMEA and, of course, our North America action a little bit later. So boot up Forza and get that practice in.
Yeah, and don't forget watch.ForzaRC.com if you want to influence what's going on later on when we have our next part of the show, which will be for the North America side of the playoff picture. Looking forward to it. We are still waiting for the final results. That suggests to me that there might be an adjustment on those results. What effect will that have on our playoff picture? Stay with us and find out as we're live on the Wednesday Showdown, live from Seattle.
Sorry, not sorry. Time to get gnarly. 10 feet tall, bring on in the army. Remember the tribe, remember the name. Came from the side, ahead of the game. Yo, why you putting on your threads, boy? I'm way ahead. Why you sleeping in the bed, man? I'm making next. No fear, I put it in high gear. You know that the champ's here. You ready to go here? Hey, push yourself, prove yourself, express yourself. Loud, defy limitations. On your outside, on your outside. Burn him up, buddy, burn him up. Somebody hit me. Clear. Still there. You put it. Copy. Oh my goodness.
IndyCar.
Back to the front.
The future starts now.
Push it, kid, push it.
The 2018 Verizon IndyCar Series. The future starts now.
The month of May coming to a climax with the Indy 500, the 102nd running of America's Great Race on Sunday. Make sure you tune in wherever you are around the world for that. And we're commemorating the fact that it's IndyCar month of May by running the IndyCars in our final Wednesday Showdown. And here's the result from that IndyCar race around Road America. There were penalties, Ali,
Whoa.
and these are big penalties. These have taken people out of big points paying positions.
Gosh.
gosh, look at that difference. Rossi and Racers move down. Both of them get penalties, but they don't move down below Box. So Mitch now has a larger margin of points between himself and Box. Sorry, I'm looking at like the 10,000-foot game here. That means that Mitch has overtaken Box on the global leaderboard by 1 point. And only because of the penalties.
I'm impressed in your math on the in the moment. That's good.
Notice he had to stand up to do it. We weren't watching that
But
on camera.
I laid an egg, John. I just laid an egg.
Ali was actually on his feet as he delivered that shock news. We'll confirm all that in a few moments' time. But points means positions in the playoffs. Let's check the playoff position. Now, that's as it stands. We will say that everything is provisional at this point. Liège, as it stands, is ahead of Mitch, and I'm hearing this is confirmed now with all of the results in. So an 8-point margin, Mitch in second place.
Liège as well, 1 point. By 1 point, he's done it. He's up in second place on the. Everyone's doing it by 1 point. Why
Extraordinary
they
road
don't care about how long I live, do they?
All right, who wrote the script? Who did it?
Give them a raise.
Ollie, was it you?
Give them a raise now. Roadrunner, despite some disappointments today, will be in third position and gets, is that 26 points?
Yep.
26 points there. And that will not be the haul of points that he was expecting, Ali. He is in a great battle at the moment for 11th on the overall standings on the global scene. He would have expected a wee bit more than that. A third on the table looks good, but only having mid-20s in points, not so good.
Not so good. I'm collecting myself still a little bit after that small frenzy.
Breathe.
Yeah. I just need to relax a bit.
And just to emphasize for Roadrunner there, he spun out in the beginning, and actually he had to.
Good point.
He actually got 10th. Like he didn't get last. So he actually made up the points required to actually, I think, jump from 6th to 3rd just by staying in the race. Even though he had that massive spin out in the beginning, he stayed into it and actually got himself in a nice spot on the leaderboards.
Well, we've had a cracking 3 races for the final Wednesday Showdown for the EMEA region. North America is next. Stay tuned for that. Kate, take us out.
Well, you nailed that. North America is next. It's at 6 p.m. Pacific. Don't miss out on any of that action and the battles. We know that Force 1 right now is leading that points, and we'll see how it all plays out. But a big congrats to Liège and to Virus for their wins today. You know, June 6th, this is a date you want to make sure you have on your calendars. It's not a Wednesday Showdown, but it is a whole lot of racing coming your way, a lot of information about the playoffs that we'll be talking about. We'll be recapping the Series 1. And my goodness, I know that there's going to be a great conversation. And did I mention there's an exhibition race? Because that's happening as well. Well, for all of us here at ForzaRC, we thank you for joining us today. For John, Ali, Alex, myself, we'll see you with the North America rounds again starting at 6 p.m. Pacific.